Steve Jobs walked out of Apple headquarters in 1985, not as a visitor, but as someone who had just been fired. The twist? He built this company from nothing. His name was on the founding documents, yet here he was, being shown the door. This is the story of how rejection became the catalyst for one of the greatest comebacks in business history. In 1976, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple in a small garage in California. They weren't just building computers, they were building a vision of the future. The Apple II became a massive hit, turning their garage startup into a Silicon Valley sensation. By 1980, Apple went public and Jobs became a millionaire at just 25 years old. Success felt incredible, but it also brought new challenges. Jobs was passionate, demanding, and often very difficult to work with. He pushed his team relentlessly because he believed only perfection could change the world. In 1983, he recruited John Sculley from Pepsi with a legendary pitch. "Do you want to sell sugar water for the rest of your life, or do you want to come with me and change the world?" Sculley accepted the challenge and joined Apple. That decision would change both their lives forever. The Macintosh launched in 1984 with incredible fanfare and high expectations. But sales disappointed and tensions between Jobs and Sculley began to rise. Jobs wanted innovation at any cost, while Sculley wanted stability and steady profits. The clashes became more frequent and more intense. Eventually, the board of directors had to make a choice. In May 1985, they sided with Sculley over Jobs. Steve Jobs, the co-founder and visionary of Apple, was stripped of all his responsibilities. By September, he resigned completely, walking away from the company he loved. He was just 30 years old, publicly humiliated, and felt completely lost. Years later, Jobs would reflect on this moment differently. "Getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me," he said. But in that moment, it felt like the end of everything. Most people would have given up after such a public failure. Steve Jobs chose a different path. He decided to start over, not once but twice. First, he founded Next Computer in 1985, pouring his energy and millions into it. Next built powerful computers for universities and businesses, but struggled to find commercial success. Still, Jobs learned invaluable lessons about software, design, and what users truly needed. Then in 1986, he made another bold move. He bought a small graphics division from Lucasfilm for $5 million. He renamed it Pixar and let them pursue their crazy dream of making computer-animated films. While Next fought for survival, Pixar quietly worked on something revolutionary. In 1995, Toy Story hit theaters as the first fully computer-animated feature film. It became a massive cultural phenomenon overnight. When Pixar went public, Steve Jobs became a billionaire. Meanwhile, back at Apple, things were falling apart. Without Jobs' vision and drive, the company lost its way completely. They released mediocre products that nobody wanted and the magic was gone. By 1996, Apple was just 90 days away from bankruptcy. They needed a miracle. In December 1996, Apple acquired Next for $429 million. The deal brought Steve Jobs back as an advisor to the company he founded. By July 1997, he was named interim CEO of Apple. Jobs didn't return seeking revenge or looking to settle old scores. He came back to build and to save what he still loved. He immediately cut 70% of Apple's product line to focus on what really mattered. His philosophy was simple: make insanely great products that people love. The iMac launched in 1998, colorful, simple, and completely revolutionary. Apple was back from the dead. But Steve Jobs was only getting started with his second act. The iPod arrived in 2001, putting 1,000 songs in your pocket. iTunes launched in 2003, transforming how we buy and experience music. The iPhone came in 2007, redefining what a phone could be. The iPad followed in 2010, creating an entirely new category of devices. Each product didn't just enter a market, it completely transformed it. Apple became the most valuable company in the world under Jobs' leadership. Steve Jobs passed away in 2011, but his impact continues to shape our world. The man who was fired from his own company returned to save it and build something far greater. So what can we learn from Steve Jobs' incredible journey? First, understand that failure is never the final chapter of your story. Being fired from Apple could have ended everything for Jobs, but it didn't. Instead, it freed him to explore new ideas and grow in unexpected ways. Second, rejection often redirects you toward your true purpose in life. Without losing Apple, Jobs would never have started Next or bought Pixar. Those wilderness years taught him everything he needed to truly transform Apple later. Third, staying hungry and curious matters more than achieving early success. Jobs could have retired rich after Apple's IPO and lived comfortably forever. Instead, he kept building, kept learning, and kept pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Finally, remember that your greatest setback might be setting up your greatest comeback. Sometimes we need to lose everything to discover what we're truly capable of achieving. The next time you face rejection or failure, think of Steve Jobs in 1985. Humiliated, fired from his own company, but absolutely not defeated. Your story isn't over when you get knocked down. Sometimes, that's exactly when your real story is just beginning. Hit the subscribe button.
Thanks for watching.